Okay. Welcome to the line, everyone. And I want to begin by asking if there are any questions from any session that we've had or from anything that concerns you right now, whether it be from the scriptures or from any other source.
Yes, I got a question.
Okay.
And mine is, what is the difference between a pandemic and a plague? Or is any difference?
A plague, a pandemic is something that that covers the whole world. It involves the whole world. A plague can be endemic. It means that it can be in one place. For example, let's say that let's look at Ebola. Ebola, a plague that was in a certain region of Africa. So, but it did not include the whole world. So, pan means all. Endemic speaks to the place. So it's in every place, okay? But a plague does not have to cover the whole world.
Oh, okay.
All right? And endemic is in a specific area.
Oh, okay.
So a plague can be endemic. Anyone else? Are there any more questions? Or
I have one.
yes.
Was this pandemic man-made, or did the ancestors cause it to happen when it was the sandstorm?
I have no idea. I do not I don't have a clue how to approach that, dear. If someone else does, please do it. I don't believe that anything that ever happens to us is coincidental, okay? Yet at the same time, we don't necessarily know the specific origins of it. And of course, there's been much speculation about it being something that originated in a lab where they were doing some testing or development, and it escaped via someone who got infected. As to the ancestors and the sand that flowed through the sandstorm, it could very well have laid the foundation for it in terms of release the energy that would be conducive to something like that taking place. There are no doubts in my mind about the powers of the ancestors. Now, I do believe that our desires had a lot to do with it, and by that I mean we have desired for the exposure of all these things to take place, and quite frankly, the virus was the catalyst that uncovered pretty much everything that we desired to be uncovered. I hope that helps you, Evelyn.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Anyone want to add to that or raise a question about that? Please do so. Anyone else? Are there any other questions? Okay. Last week, we started talking about the prayer listed in Matthew 6 that is often referred to as the Lord's Prayer. In actuality, it speaks to the posture, the emotional posture that Jesus is teaching the disciples that's necessary in order to purposely communicate with the universe or with the Father. Not so much for the purpose of asking for anything, but for the purpose of having the experience of being one with, knowing that out of that relationship or out of that opportunity, anything and everything is available. So as we approach it today, I'm hoping that you've looked at it differently than you have in the past, and maybe as a suggestion, we may be able to look at the results of saying, "Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name." Below that is the posture that we are to have, or the elements that the energy forces that are in play at the point of our saying, "Our Father which art in heaven." All these other things come into play at that point, and I know that Sheldon especially and others have looked at that since last week, and maybe if we discuss those things below the prelude to that, we'll be able to more readily grasp the posture that Jesus is describing to us. What do you think about that, Mr. Sheldon, especially, and anyone else who has looked at that?
Yes, I also think it would help as a prelude to explain that ultimately this, if you're praying for anything in this prayer, it is to have to be transformed, to have an opening, to have a closer, more intimate relationship with the Father. Everything that it's talking about is to facilitate that. And if we look at the prayer from that mindset, and everything else is in for, I don't want to say preparation, but in actually getting in the space and the openness for that to take place. And then as in a request, only saying that you are open and able to receive that, that is essentially the prayer. So maybe if starting it off from that standpoint, from the onset, will have an effect on changing the perspective and actually in focus and trying to see it through that lens.
Okay. So, any other suggestions or comments regarding that? Okay. Sheldon, you want to initiate?
Okay. I'm not, last week we started off talking about what was said in Matthew. Well, the prayer, of course, starts, commonly known as the Lord's Prayer, starts Matthew 6 and 9. Last Monday, we actually first started off with Matthew 1 through 8. And the reason we started off with Matthew 1 and 8 was to explain or see or understand exactly what it is that Jesus was trying to say when he was talking about how we give in terms of charity or doing for others. Keeping in mind to what was just first said, I'm just simply going to read 1 through 8. If anyone wants to stop me at any point, they can. And we're first going to discuss that and address any questions that might be on that area. And then we will move forward to the prayer. So we will do that as the prelude. So I am actually reading from the Aramaic version. And the Aramaic version would be the version that Jesus and the people in that area where he lived, the common people, would have spoken. So this would have been, or this is Jesus's original language. Also, as we've stated many times, though, this is one of what could be many different translations, because the words don't translate one for one. In Aramaic, the words actually represent more so concepts than just one solid small thing. Okay, so Aramaic, Matthew chapter 6, verse 1. So then, look around during your almsgiving, and I will add in almsgiving means charity, so that you will not do it in front of the sons of mankind in such a way that you might be seen by them. And if not, there is no reward for you with your Father who is in the heavens. Therefore, when you are doing alms, giving charity, don't be sounding a horn in front of you like the face takers, the pretenders, and the actors are doing in the synagogues and in the marketplaces, so that they might be praised from the sons of mankind. And truly I say unto you that they have received their reward. I'm actually going to stop. But first of all, are there any questions thus far? Okay. I'm going to stop here because we've always been told to do things in our, go in our closet and do things in our secret place. And what Jesus is actually talking about here from the very beginning is he is talking about not only our giving, but also talking about our intentions and reason for giving. Why he is saying those people have been rewarded out in the open is because those people's entire intention in giving in the first place was actually to receive recognition and to be looked at as upon doing something good by their fellow peers. The reason why Jesus is saying that they will not receive the ultimate reward, once again, is because of their intention. If their intentions, which the prayer involves, had taken into account if it had involved them shifting and changing their heart and actually changing their heart and wanting to do this for the good of that individual, that in itself would have helped to open them up. So what he's actually alluding to here is those people who were just given to be seen were not given for the right reasons. Their heart was not open. And once again, the entire prayer, everything that Jesus is talking about here is opening ourselves up to basically receive. When he says, this is how you pray, this is how you open yourself, this is how you receive, this is how you commune with the Father. Any questions?
Sheldon.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Some came to mind when you were talking about the ones who are the pretenders, the ones who give to be seen. What people don't realize is that we are manipulated into giving in order to be seen. And that is done by the way that offers are received. If you really think about what happens, 99 and 9/10% of all offerings that are received by you bringing it down front. Usually Sunday mornings, the ushers receive them in the pans or whatever, the plates, the offering plates. However, if it is a special program, a revival, or anniversary, countywide revival, stuff like that, pastor's anniversaries especially, everyone is asked to bring. Why? Because the understanding is embedded in psychology as opposed to spirituality. If you allow them, meaning the congregants, at that to sit as you pass a plate during these programs, they will let it pass by them and not put anything in it, and they're more apt to put less in it if they put anything in it at all. However, if you have them to walk, they're less likely to have people to scrunch across them to try to get past them in order to get out to walk, so they would get up themselves. And in doing so, they would feel uncomfortable walking past the table and not depositing some type of offering. And also, those who are giving are more apt to give more because there are those standing at the table who are supposed to be receiving the offering, and they really think they are because that's what they're told to do. But they're being scrutinized. People are being scrutinized as they place the offering in the tray. So it is said that it is better to have them to walk than it is to pass the tray because you will get more money that way. So in that regard, people are in a way taught to give so they can be seen or known for what they are giving. Any questions about that? Go ahead.
I want to add to what Pastor Richard just said. Also, by no means is he saying that it is the fault of the normal person who attends church and falling into this in this trap. Like you said, is manipulation is a psychological thing. Now, how this works on us, or how it works on the person who is attending church, just from an objective standpoint, and not even saying who is saying that someone is right or wrong. We are taught, or have been taught and manipulated from the standpoint to feel like if we are actually just giving, then we are doing what we're supposed to be doing. And because we're just giving, that giving is only something that is done out of labor or a requirement, and is not actually coming from our heart. And we're actually thinking at that particular time that we are we're doing what we're doing what Jesus commanded us to do. And because we think that we're doing what Jesus commanded us to do, which is not a fault until we know better, but it's not a fault of our own, we are not going deeper. And so the aspects in terms of then being rewarded in secret and experiencing God is never open, because we never accessing that, because in a sense, we've been blinded, we've been tricked. So I want to go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I'm finished.
And I don't want anyone to think that this is something that happens, that has taken place rather haphazardly, and that it doesn't happen in their setting. It happens in every setting. Every pastor is taught the same thing about those who mentor that pastor. All of us who pastor have been told the same thing. It is better to have them to walk because you'll get more than it is to have them to pass the tray. We are taught that. That is impressed upon us more than anything else. It is unheard of to just have people to bring it up when they get ready to leave, or just give willy-nilly. Like, this thing is orchestrated in every single congregation, period. So I would that you notice, that you pay attention to this, some of you, when you go into these settings, and you monitor for yourself and see which times are the offerings received by passing the tray and by bringing it down front, especially in your counter-ride services, especially in your associational services, especially or in your anniversary services. All of them have you to walk, because no one wants to feel less than in terms of what they give. Okay? That's a well-guarded secret, by the way.
Yeah. Any questions or comments about what we've discussed thus far? Okay. Oh, I guess just the last part, essentially because, as Pastor Richard's saying, that attempt of trickery to get money, what ends up happening, and I don't know if this is the aim, but as a result, we who are not, I guess, in a sense, in on it, then are misled and misguided, and so we end up being the ones that are actually robbed when we buy into this. Going on to verse 3, Matthew 6 and 3. But you, when you are giving charity, you shouldn't let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, so that your charity might be in secret, and your Father, who sees in secret, will himself repay you in the open. And whenever you are praying, you shouldn't be like the face takers, the pretenders, and the actors who love standing in the synagogues, the assemblies, and on the corners of the marketplaces, praying so that they might be visible to the sons of mankind. And I truly say unto you that they have received their reward. But when you pray, enter your room and close your door and pray unto your Father, who is in secret, and your Father who sees in secret will repay you in the open. And when you pray, don't be wordy like the pagans, for they hope that by many words they will be heard. Therefore, you shouldn't be like them, for your Father knows what you require before you will ask him. Okay. Well, first of all, are there any thoughts or questions about anything that I just read?
I would like to comment. I like meditation better because you don't have to say anything. You just sit there and just let God do the analyzing or search your soul and what you have on your heart. So, seems like I used to get tired when I would pray. So I'm glad we're bringing this out and up.
Yes, and yes, we're going to talk more about that, and what Jesus is saying right here as well. And I don't know how y'all would talk, but as I was taught, every time Jesus says do this, because if you don't do this, this other thing is going to happen. I thought it was more so of a punishment, and it's not a punishment that is happening. It is that we haven't done the necessary thing to get the reward that it is that he is talking about, and therefore have cut ourselves off from that reward. So going back to now talking about, first we were talking about charity and talking about the manner in which we give the charity, give our tithes and offering and things like that, essentially doing any type of good deeds for anyone. And now we're moving on to prayer. And all of us also are very familiar with those people who are amazing public prayer warriors. What Jesus is talking about here is he's not condemning, once again, these people, but what he is saying is because their goal is to actually put on a great performance and look good in front of everyone when they pray, or to look good by saying, "Oh, that lady, that boy, that woman, that man sure enough can pray," or that person is very holy. For whatever reason that person might be praying or in a sense putting on a show in public, if that is their intention and their reason for doing that particular thing, then automatically, by default, their main goal and reason for praying isn't to commune with the Lord. It isn't for some other effect. It is for vanity or something for themselves. That is why they are then cutting themselves off from having a true relationship or communion with the Lord. Because what we're basically talking about here is we're talking about a connection. If we were talking about human beings, we would talk about spending quality time, etc. That's why it's talking about going in your room, going in the closet, going in secret by yourself. You are only focused on the on God. You only focus on, as Evelyn just said, that meditation. Your mind isn't wandering all over the place. You can't be doing it for anyone else if you're doing it in secret. Any questions or comments at this particular point?
I have a question. This is Mary. This is good what you're saying. I really do like that. I understand what you're saying. However, what if someone says, "Will you pray for me? I'm going through. Would you pray for me? Would you mention me in my in your prayers?" So if I'm meditating, clearing my mind of all this stuff that's going on, so I can commune with the Father who's in me, so I can just get that centeredness. How do I include others who are hurting? I know when I see, for instance, I saw a motorcycle accident on the road, and all I said, "Lord, help, have mercy." I say that, but for people that actually come to me and say, "Mary, would you pray for me?"
Yes. Go ahead.
First of all, when someone says that to me, I say yes. And the reason I say yes is because I know that they don't understand what they're asking of me. And I'm not doing anything differently by them asking me to do that than I would be doing if they didn't ask me. Because every time that I enter a state of purposeful meditation, I am doing it on behalf of all of humanity anyway. So that person is already included in my prayer. And if it's someone who asks me specifically to pray for something specifically, I also say, okay, I got this. Why? Because my desire is to be in a constant state of meditation. I am what I do, meaning that if I meditate, then I am meditation. So my agreeing to do that on their behalf, I've already done it when I agree to do it. Therefore, I don't have to worry about whether or not it is done. The expectation of them does not dictate how it's done. The expectation is for me to get on my knees or on my face and call their name. That's their expectation. Their expectation is different than the dictation of Jesus in this regard. So as long as I'm following the dictates of Jesus and my concern is for all of humanity, then I don't have to be concerned with their expectations of the method that I use. Does that help you, Mary?
Oh, you covered it. That was good explanation. I get it. Because a lot of times when I'm thinking, calling them by names, you can't remember those names. I don't, especially if you see me out and things going on in my head. But when I pray for everyone. Not pray, but when you meditate, you're meditating for the good of mankind. You're meditating for the world. So, okay. Sorry, I'm out of breath. Just walked up the stairs. Sorry. But I get it. Good explanation.
Okay. You need to walk up the stairs more often, girl.
It seems like it, doesn't it? Okay, thanks.
Anyway, I want to point something out. In this, Jesus saying, whenever you are praying, you shouldn't be like the pretenders or the actors, right, performing, etc. And he says, when the pretenders do that, they have already received their reward. And then he says, the Father, when you do it the right way, your Father who sees in secret will repay you in secret, will reward you in secret. What is this talking about? Repay me? Reward me for what? What is the reward for this? what are you saying? If you're going to repay me, then that means I have done something on your behalf, so you can repay me for having done it. You see my question?
Yes, I do see your question.
So, what is being offered here as a reward or repayment? Because apparently, repayment is the reward.
Oh yes, yes. The reward. Well, first, let's say what the reward is for the people who did it out in the open, who were the pretenders and the actors. The pretenders and the actors is essentially their reward was. Remember what we talked about intentions. Their intentions were to be seen and to be looked at in a certain way. That is exactly what their reward is. It's only that it was that they were seen in a certain way, and that's it. So, in terms of whatever it is they were praying for, all of that is null and void. That wasn't what they were seeking out genuinely to begin with. I'm going to open it up before I respond to Pastor Richard's comment for others when he asks, "What is the reward being repaid for those who pray in secret?"
Well, I don't know what the reward is, but I can attest to some of. I've had this man in our church, and he said on Sunday, the Lord said, everybody get on their knees and pray. Well, of course, you had some to get down on their knees and pray, and I didn't move. And so I got with him when we come back to church that next Sunday, and I asked him, I said, you can't make people get down on their knees to pray. And his statement was, you know, the Lord wants you to get on the knees and pray because I said, so you think the Lord can't hear you standing up? And I told him, I said, that was nothing but a controlling spirit, and a controlling spirit is nothing but witchcraft. I said, you're controlling the people's mind, and you make them think that if the spirit only speaks to you, why he can't speak to nobody else. I said, and I wasn't told to get on my knees. I said, because in the first place, I can sit right where I'm at and meditate, and nobody never know what I say. And nobody, that's between me and the Creator. That's not between you and everybody else. So I don't have to get down on my knees. But they would try to manipulate you into doing, I said, to look super spiritual. And there is no reward in what he did. And now, so when they call it, you got some of those same people that are controlled, mind control. They'll get up and they'll still go down sometimes. But it's like if me and maybe one of the other minister men, when they're there, you know, he won't hardly do it because he knows that we're on to what he's doing. So I don't even know that the only reward I can say get down here from man is attention, because they sure not getting nothing else down here. But I know that I can meditate, and Reverend Richards, I think we brought this up one time in class, where when we meditate and somebody asks me to pray for them, sometimes I might can't remember everything, but I might remember the name. So when I go into meditation, I just meditate on their name, and in my mind, in my spirit, I'm saying whatever the issue is, and then I just meditate on whatever the issue is, and then it's like I'm interceding for that person, and instead of just calling that thing out. But if I know, if they tell me, well, I want you to pray for so-and-so, then I meditate on that situation for that person. That's all.
Any other, before we go for it, any other thoughts about repaying the reward
I have a
when
thought.
praying in secret?
I have a I have a thought. I think if I could just back up a little bit when it says, but when you pray, go into your inner room. I think it's related to that. I think the reward is that when you develop that interior part of yourself, I think the reward is you come to a certain knowing that you're actually connecting to, or you are a part of the Creator. Because down in verse 8, it says he already knows what you need before you even ask. So you don't necessarily have to ask, you just have to connect. Energy-wise, I guess, for lack of a better word. So when you develop that interior room within yourself, I think the reward is related to that.
Any others? Definitely going to comment on these, but any other thoughts and questions? Thoughts on what is meant there?
I have a thought. This Mary again, because I was thinking about when Jesus, when he was feeding the multitude, and he said, well, Father, I know that you hear me, but for the benefit of those. And he blessed the food. So when we do have, I agree that get into the innerness of us and actually getting in touch, in tune, finding that place within us, then we see the reward is the peace that come over us and the knowing that God is in control and that he hears an answer and he's going to do what needs to be done for the benefit of the world. And that's the piece that I'm thinking that he's talking about. My reward is knowing that he's in control and I don't have to worry about it. And I could just let it go and continue to trust him.
Any others?
Agreed.
Yeah. These are good, by the way. Any others?
Yeah, that's my sister that just spoke, Mary.
Thank you, Evelyn. Go ahead, Pastor Richard.
Thank you.
Hey, Shelton, this is Charles. To me, Charles? I'm thinking, I'm doing great, man. To me, I'm seeing that why you have to pray and what's the reason of the praying, and not only why you have to pray in front of multitude, because, I mean, furthermore, the leaders and stuff, I ain't saying all leaders, have been teaching people the wrong way of praying, and we don't got so adapted to it, we believe it. That's the way to pray. And not only that, and family members, when they get together, they have, pray for this, pray for that, lay hand on this, lay hand on that. And all that stuff has been wrong. Now we're trying to get the fulfillment of praying the right way. And it'll be hard for a lot of people to look at you and understand what you're trying to do.
Sheldon, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
This is Barbara. Another way to see a closet or inner room for prayer is it's a heart position. In a sense. And so, as was said earlier, it's a meditation is similar to that in that it is a heart position. It is not openly showing everything to whomever is watching you, but it is going privately and intimately with intention inside yourself. I think, as Audrey said, to make that connection with the Creator. So, and the reward for that, as has been said, is that peace, is that overwhelming love and compassion and gratefulness and thankfulness. To have that kind of relationship that is not dependent on anything external, but everything internally.
Others?
Chuck, okay, what about the people we know, but what about the people that don't know? And instead of them pastor saying what she was saying and freeing the people, but why is no one is reaching out to people and telling them? They're just like the God calling sheep, and whatever wind blows, that's where the sheep goes.
You don't have to.
Why not?
You don't
say
have
what, Rep?
You don't have to.
Yeah, I know I don't.
No, listen.
But I'm talking about the one who's been led that way.
Charles. Listen.
Yeah.
When I say you don't have to, I'm not talking about you, Charles.
Oh, all right.
It is not necessary to pray for everyone to know. That's not necessary. What's necessary is for someone to know. That is the reason there was the scripture talks about if there a man who is standing in the gap. It's not talking about every individual person having to be obedient to that or even to know that it exists. What's important is to have someone righteous in the earth who is willing to do what's necessary for the benefit of humanity. Example, who knew that we were desiring for all these things to be exposed? Very few people knew that. However, everyone seemingly responded to it because it was exposed and is being exposed. So it's not necessary for everyone to know the difference in prayer meditation. That's what's meant when we talk about being our brother's keeper. It is incumbent upon us to do it on their behalf because they don't know, rather than condemn people for not knowing. Okay?
I got you now.
Okay. Can I give an example to go along with that, what you said, Reverend Richards? One Wednesday night, year before last, for the pandemic, I was teaching the women in the class, and it was about prayer. And I asked them, I said, what if I could tell y'all that there's another way instead of praying with words, meditation? And they didn't, and it was over 18 in the room, but they didn't knock it one bit. And what they did, I showed them how to do it. And when I showed them how to do it, every last one of them, you could feel a peaceful presence in the room. And so when I gave them time, we spent probably about 10 minutes. And I said, okay, everybody come back. So when they opened up their eyes, just about everyone in there had something to say that they felt while they was in meditation. And just about every last one of them, except one person, I think, in there said she didn't feel anything because I guess she was looking to feel something. But everybody else just relaxed and just gave in, to the meditation. And every last one of them, except that one person, said they felt a spirit of peace that had come upon them. And I think one or two of them said they saw a bright light while they was meditating. But they didn't knock it. Now, if I stand up there in that pulpit before everybody's in there, some of them going to look at me like I'm crazy, especially the ones that want to get a pat on the back for the hoop when they pray, standing in the synagogue wanting to be seen of men. So those are ones that going to knock when I say meditation. But like Reverend Richard said, everybody's not going to receive it anyway. So you know, you just have to be led to who to go to and put it out there in the micro. Maybe they'll get it. I'm through.
I understand what you're saying because when it was 12, but it was more than 12 disciples out there when Jesus was talking. But the one really was going to do what they do, then the one was with Jesus. And Jesus is the one that explained it to her. You don't have to have a whole abundance of crowds. But there's going to be few in there. Pick it up. I got you.
There's been a lot of great things that were said as we've been discussing this, and so I want to thank you all for your great contributions. Want to go over and talk about it a little bit. So, answering the question, what is the reward and what is actually taking place here? There is so much going on. First of all, the reward changes exactly when the focus change, and essentially is when we change, and it's how we actually approach this thing. When we approach with openness and a quiet, and we are allowing that calmness and assuredness that was mentioned, we are able to, even immediately in the moment, to embrace and feel the refreshing and the refilling. All of that is taking place. But once again, we've gone to pray now in secret because this was, I don't want to say this was the goal, but we approach prayer, meditation in a totally different way. In this prayer, by it also being, as I mentioned, in a room, in a door, it's talking about going within our selves. It's talking about an intimate relationship. It's talking about stillness. It's talking about, actually, if you can imagine, for a lesser degree, being with any human being and just being in their presence and sitting there. This is what is going on with what we're talking about right now versus just being in the church screaming or on, as the scripture said, on the corner in the marketplace screaming, etc. Trying to be seen or doing that because that's what we thought we were supposed to do. And also in response to why this isn't being taught. Heck, in many cases, this is not known because we've been taught from generation to generation in some cases that prayer and meditation doesn't even look like this. It looks like what many of us have been doing throughout our lives. So it's not even known by everyone. We've talked about in the past how we've been taught, generally speaking, to recite the scriptures, but never to actually understand the scriptures. Just being able to recite and say, the scriptures say this. Okay, what exactly does that mean? We never took it that far. And then the last thing I wanted to respond on quickly in terms of when 8, your father knows what you require. Once again, this is saying that the Father already knows what we need, and that in itself is allowing that submission. And when I say submission is in a bad thing. Submission is letting go of our present state in order to transform or experience something great. That's what we mean by submit. And to give an example of that, whenever we might be extremely upset with someone, a friend, just anyone, and we're very, very uptight, there are only a certain amount of emotions that we are allowing ourselves to feel at that time. Everyone has experienced at some point where they just wanted to be upset about something. They would not let a particular thing go. And it was almost as if that thing was in control of them. Well, the submitting part is to let that go, to you to experience other things that are a lot more greater, which is compassion, love, and things of that nature, beauty, etc., that probably, or not probably, is all around you, all around us. But at the time, we have cut those particular things off. So when we say submit, we're not talking about something like you're not that you're losing something. You're actually opening yourself up to receive. Any thoughts, comments, or questions about what has been discussed thus far?
I like to make an effort to add something to that. When we do this in terms of the meditation, what we're actually doing is recognizing that we are more than human, recognizing that we are more than these bodies that we live in, understanding that a house, a home, a house is the place where you learn your essence. For example, the house that we grew up in, it is in that place where we learn our essence, our character. That's where we got our first glimpse of who we are, who we're supposed to be, or who we thought we were anyway. In this house called human is where we've been placed in order to learn our true essence. And if we are making efforts to be recognized by those around us or be heard by them, then our essence is limited to the response of men or how they respond to us or accept or reject us. Once we go beyond this body, this humanness, and embrace, as Audrey, I think, used the word connect to the spiritual or be one with the spiritual, it is at that point that we begin to embrace our essence, embrace who we really, really are. And that's where the journey to this nation of truth begins. It doesn't end there, but it begins there. And at that point, we begin to grow in an awareness of who we are. And that reward is being shown who we are in a way that we can not only recognize it, experience it, but we can share it as well. I'm done.
So comments thus far from anyone?
To repay. I'm repaying you for you paying the price to move beyond the distractions that are in your life. And it is not easy to move beyond the distractions in our lives. And I'm not talking about the news every day. Neither am I talking about the possibility of sickness or pain in the body. Distractions are also our desires. The things that give us joy in this physical world can be a distraction as well. Anything that lends itself to shifting our focus from our Creator is a distraction, regardless of how grand and great it may be in this physical realm. It becomes a distraction at that point. So is the abandon of everything that seeks to stand between us and a spiritual visualization of our Creator. Okay.
When you was first started talking, I was also thinking, will repay you is to, for the Father is saying, allow me to make you whole.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that.
Going on, because I don't think we talked much about it, but moving on to, we're going on to the 7th verse. And when you pray, don't be wordy. And for the Lord knows the words. Well, I'm just gonna read it. And when you pray, don't be wordy like the pagans, for they hope that by many words they will be heard. 8. Therefore you shouldn't be like them, for your Father knows what you require before you will ask of him. And what this is talking about here is the idea of, I know me. When I used to pray a long time and thinking, growing up, thinking that all these words needed to be great or perfect, and you're just trying to figure out the best prayer to actually give or say, whether this is in secret, and also, of course, when this was in front of others. But what Jesus is saying here right now is actually even taking the whole part of prayer away from even thinking and talking, and is focusing more on the heart and focusing more on your desire. And it's saying that the Lord knows the words better than you and than us. And the reason and what is meant by that is what we've been talking about this entire time is listening. We're talking about opening up. And we're talking about that listening and that opening and quietness, that being the conversation or the back and forth, the communion with the Lord. And in order to even do that, you have to be required. Is a moving away from the mind and moving more towards the heart and the desire. That's what it's talking about here. Whenever you even think about somebody meditating denotes stillness. It's not a whole bunch of jabbering, just running their mouth, etc. Thoughts or questions or comments about 7 and 8?
I think that 7 and 8 is actually a summation of what has been said prior to it in terms of the corrective attitude that we must have before we can actually approach 9, and that is making sure that all of the intellectual, academic, religious methodologies have been abandoned before we can even think of embracing the Father, or even embracing the essence or the nature of our Father. It is like the erasure of everything that's material. And the only thing that's left are those things that you cannot see, you can't taste, you can't feel, you can't smell it. You can't even describe it. All you can do is experience it. And the experience itself escapes description. There are no adjectives to describe the experience that you have if there are adjectives that can describe that experience, then is it truly a spiritual experience? The struggle is to be in a place where there are no accolades expected or given, and where there are no expectations on our part other than to experience the Creator. And when it comes to receiving, the only thing that we expect in terms of receiving is to be received in that presence. And everything else escapes our sensibilities when it comes to being able to enumerate the things that we have received. Any questions or comments about that?
This is Ron. I agree with everything that's been said. Sheldon just said something too that kind of put my mind on something. And I don't want to skip ahead of you too much, but it's kind of, I guess, what he's walking up to in verse 9 offers a different part of self than what you see in verses 1 and 2. That's a totally different part of you. But you said something that kind of got my attention, and that what you alluded to was that the meditation offers a much richer rhythm of vibration than words. And that just kind of hit me, because when you get down into this is talking about a meditation and not just merely calling words. I guess calling words, you're not fully engaged because you're thinking about what you're saying or going to say, and the meditation is just, as Pastor just said, just releasing all that is, that it's before you, and just relaxing and letting the Spirit guide you. And that just kind of caught my attention when you said that. It's a different part of self that it takes you to. I'm done. Just an observation.
Ron, I think if I'm hearing you right, you're speaking to a deep vulnerability, a type of vulnerability that leaves you open to whatever, wherever rather, the Creator guides you. A vulnerability that.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
But yeah, vulnerability, but it is a different place of trust, maybe.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
And just total release of all of everything that makes up whoever Ron has defined himself to be. I totally release it and let it go. And
it's like being on the tree limb and sawing the limb off, and you're vulnerable, but you trust that the tree is going to fall and not the limb, that kind of thing.
Yes.
Is it also like a sort of emptying yourself of everything? All of the words that you have, preconceived words and notions that you have that you think make up what you are, or whatever situation you thought you were praying about in the first place. And even sometimes when you pray, your words, you hear your words, which are at best your best representation of the desired that you want fulfilled. But when you meditate and when you go into yourself and you empty yourself of all of the distractions, everything other than perhaps the breath that you're breathing in, and just beginning to be grateful for the Creator who gave you that breath, that's part of the vulnerability too, because you're not trying to maintain a facade of who you think you are. You're just empty and ready to be filled, in a sense.
That's it exactly. Yeah, that kind of sums it up, because the words can only be limited to who you are, who you see yourself to be, or who you are at that conscious state. But the meditation is an unconscious state. It is a place beyond self, as I know self to be. I think that sums it up beautifully.
And this idea that you talk about of self, when we think about self, almost 100% of the time, if not 100% of the time, self leads you to seeing this image of what you look like. However, when you're empty of that, you don't see what you look like. You experience who you are. And that is very, very difficult to explain when you are in that state of meditation. To explain the experience of who you are is much, 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 much more difficult than the explanation of self. Because when we talk about who we are in terms of self, we get adjectives that describe our character or our appearances, our thought patterns, our beliefs. But when we think about emptying ourselves of that, there is the nothingness that's left. And in the midst of that nothingness, we become everything. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, it does.
Because there's no descriptor to the no-thingness, to the nothingness. There's no word that's powerful enough to describe that. So you simply experience it.
And at that point of the no thing, the thing about it is knowing not so much knowing our Father. Get your phone, please. It's not so much of knowing that nothingness is the real. Phone, please.
Mute your phone, please, right quick.
That nothingness is not so much of our fatherness in this. Recognize that Abun is enlightenment itself. It's more than that. It's realizing, as we were talking about earlier, that when we get to that nothingness, it's not so much give us this daily bread as it is recognizing the source of our daily bread, the necessity of forgiveness, the understanding that that we are not guided into any temptation or testing by the Creator. This in itself opens us up to seeing the seeing or experiencing rather the sense, what it means for for our Father, for Abun to be enlightenment itself and all of its characteristics being hallowed. And I look at that hallowed as being hollowed out for our habitation. that kind of thing, if that makes any sense.
Yes. Well, I of course have a comment as well. I was letting y'all build up to this point. Caller who we just asked you to mute your phone. Do you have a question or comment?
Yes, this was, this is Angela. I just wanted to share my experience that I had with meditation. Because I was having, when I would meditate, it's just like all the stuff was just going through my mind. And I was just trying to push it out. So I had talked to Pastor Richard. He told me either when I meditate to do, to say a womb or Elohim. So I said a womb, and I did that. And I did have a different feeling. And when I started out, whereas I was taking breath and I was saying a womb, I could feel myself in a peaceful state. And then I started out with my legs. My legs was crossed, so my legs was so I had straightened them out, but I could feel my hands. I had my hands were like touching each other. My hands were coming apart from each other. My body started to I was starting to lay down and go down. And then when I did touch, my body felt so light. And it was somebody else that I could hear, somebody else. The name that I heard was Ramel, that they was there too, where I was, but I was in a place of peace. It was a peaceful state. I didn't even want to. I didn't want to come back. I mean, I wanted to come back, but not, stay in that peaceful state that I was. But it was a total different experience for me. Totally. That's it. That's all I wanted to say.
And that is the reward. What you just explained at the end. Pastor Richard?
Yeah. How did you know if you're looking for to unmute? But anyway, she and Vermilla never met, to my knowledge. And for her to be in that state, knowing that Vermilla just got out of the hospital and is in a state of healing, that speaks to what my response to Mary earlier about being there for all of humanity. It speaks to that in that state she was in. Why would she be led to experience the presence of Ramel at that point, if not for the purpose of shared energy and enhancing her recovery and encouraging her emotionally? So I think that experience in itself for Angela speaks volumes to what we are making every attempt to get every one of us to understand when we talk about the power of this meditation. And I certainly hope Ramel is on this phone at this point.
I am. And I want to say thank you for relaying your experience, because that's very powerful to me.
This is Angela, because, I kept hearing, too, I wasn't, that I'm not alone. I'm not alone. So I took it as we're all spirits, so when, I don't know how to explain it, but us being spirit, we're all connected. I might not see them physically, but spiritually, we're all connected. But I just kept hearing that I wasn't alone. I wasn't alone. Well, I'm never alone. We're never alone because the Spirit is always there. I'm done.
Definitely thank you for sharing, Angela. What Ron brought up when he was talking about the being quiet, he actually took us right into 9 and talking about the meditation. So 9 says, therefore you are to pray like this: Abum, who is the Shamaya, which is the heavens, May Shamak, which is your name, be hallowed. And this whole first part is just basically a sound. And it's the very beginning of the meditation. And it's also, with it being sound, it lacks words, because what it's doing is taking us completely away from, as Pastor Richard said, from being a human being. And in terms of not having words, as Ron started talking, I started to think, if before explaining or going further into what a wound means, in terms of not talking, if you can imagine maybe the greatest landscape or something that you've ever seen before, and is breathtaking, and there are no words that can come for you to explain it. You're just in awe. And seeing the magnitude, the majesticness of this particular scene, whether it's some type of mountain, a canyon, a landscape with sunset, a beautiful moon, looking out to the ocean, etc. It's that particular thing, though, that moment, that experience where you're locked in the present. There are no words. You don't even try. You might try to bring some words to explain it, but then you just quickly give up because you just quickly know that it is useless. And I can't put this in words. That is what Abwoon is doing, or taking us into a space of doing, from the very beginning of this this prayer, or how to pray. I want to say this meditation, and it is I'm going to just read. With that in mind, what I just said, just a very, very, very diluted version. And this is what I am talking about when I say that Aramaic words mean so much more than just some little small thing. Just for the first part, which is Abwoon, and we're going to explain further. O thou from whom the breath of all life comes. O birther, father, mother of the cosmos. Our Father, Mother, who art above and within. From the very beginning, the meditation starts off as a recognition. It is an acknowledgement of the mightiness of creation. You want to call God all that exists, but also make sure that the mother-father aspect is added, of the most ultimate parent. To sit in there and say that, and not say words, but acknowledge it in your heart and embrace it and actually soak all of that in and feel it. That is how the meditation first starts off. It's a complete transformation, going completely away from just being a human being. It is the very beginning of the aligning ourselves with that. Any thoughts, questions before I go forward? About what I just
said. Because what you just described, the boom is the journey. It takes you, starts the journey, and that picturesque thing that you described, the ocean or the mountain that it takes you to. Prior to this, when you're talking about verse 7 and 8, Pastor mentioned a spiritual visualization of our Creator. was the term he used. I thought that was right interesting. So what you just described, you cannot, that's something that you experience. There's nothing you can say to tell me what that looks like or even feels like. It's the rhythm inside of you and the surrendering that takes you there, and the experience is unlike anything you've had before. So yeah, I now it all kind of fits together and makes sense.
And then two things quickly, and definitely any other thoughts or comments or questions that I thought about when you just said that at first. One, when I say that particular landscape or whatever, I just said one. We're talking about everything together, all landscapes that can't even be imagined. So you are pushing your imagination to embrace that particular thing. So what I just talked about and was in awe was actually in nothing in total comparison, number one. Number two, the act of trying to put words to it and describe it automatically dilutes it and takes away from it, because no words can actually explain it. So that in itself is to bring it down. It's like when you, the same thing, when you hear a good song or a great song that you really feeling and you all into, or when you eat some food and the only thing you can say, how it tastes, that's all you can say. You can't put any words to it. It's just the same kind of exact thing. I say that jokingly, but I'm making it so it's something that everyone can actually relate to. Thoughts or questions before we're still on that womb, by the way. Any thoughts or questions, comments?
So again, we're still at that point of being. I think the term Barb used earlier was being empty. Yet at the same time, we are filled with everything. And the everything that we're filled with, if we had to put in the word, I suppose, would be our desire and our intentions of that empty space being filled with the presence of the olive, the presence of womb, the presence of the energy of the universe itself, which happens and at the same time causes us to recognize that of whom the universe, our Creator, is all the enlightenment that exists. Not only all that we need, but has all the enlightenment that exists, and everything about its character is set aside for the specific purpose of guiding us on this journey. I'm done.
And that focus is a focus away from us, as in quote unquote human parts of us, and it's a focus on the Creator. And in that hollowing of the name begins to take place once we immediately start to focus on the Creator. So are there any, because I'm going to read a further part of just that first part that we're just talking about, just that Our Father which art in heaven. Before I read that, any other thoughts or questions about what is going on here? Oh, and as I said last week, at womb starts off, it's just a sound, and it's a vibration, and it's just, and it comes deep down from in a vibration deep down in our soul, in our diaphragm, as if you are a singer. and it settles, it creates stillness. That is the beginning of the prayer. Thoughts or questions? Okay. So that first part that we just talked about, which was only the very beginning of the meditation, that womb. An extended, a more elaborate version of that. And if while I read this, you can imagine not just hearing the words, but actually embracing and feeling the words. O birther, father, mother of the cosmos, you create all that moves in light. O thou, the breathing life of all, creator of the shimmering sound that touches us, respiration of all words, we hear you breathing, in and out, in silence. Source of sound, in the roar and the whisper, in the breeze and the whirlwind, we hear your name. Radiant one, you shine within us, outside us. Even darkness shines when we remember. Name of names, our small identity unravels in you. You give it back as a lesson. Wordless action, silent potency, where ears and eyes awaken, there heaven comes. O birther, father, mother of the cosmos. I'm finished. What are are there any questions, and what are the thoughts about what has been said thus far?
At the point of our emptiness, the fulfilling is recognizing that the unraveling of the minute state of our being is taking place at that moment, and there is a desire to receive it for guidance, to understand who we are and our purpose for being here, and in doing so, recognizing that you are the light of all lights. You're the essence of everything that is. Without you, there is nothing. Without you, there is no me. There is no us. And because of you, we exist. And having said all of that, now we thank you because you sustain us by giving us daily everything that we need for sustenance. I'm done. That's what I'm hearing anyway.
I heard the same thing, Rip. And I appreciate everybody's on the phone because before Sheldon went into this verse, all the other verses preparing your body, preparing you to receive this last verse.
You're right, Charles. It's a preparation taking place.
Any other thoughts at this big moment? Sorry, go ahead. What are you about to say?
No, go ahead.
Oh, were there any other contributions or questions?
This is Angela. I wanted to ask, where are y'all reading from?
So I'm actually reading for several different places, especially with the Aramaic. So it's because it's so passive. and it's not just direct. In each one of these words, as we were talking about, that first part, the only thing we just talked about just now was the word, or the more so the sound, avum. And that's what that one word or sound by itself means. And in that sound, I've given the example in the past about how this even is in many different cultures all across the world where they do this. And it's more so of an experience that is caught up in these words than it just being a word that is said without meaning. This is something more so feel, or it comes from a deeper part of yourself. Your body makes these words, so to speak. But go ahead.
If I may, it's an attempt to put into words the rhythm that the body is experiencing when you feel the vibration of a womb. Is that it's an attempt to describe that, and that rhythm speaks from your soul, saying that I recognize this rhythm as the light above all light, the birth of everything that is, the one who unfolds the me to me, and sets before me a mirror that I may see me as I see you, and you and I are one, that kind of thing. It's what you feel, it's what you experience. You earlier, Angela, when you were talking about the newness or the difference in the experience that you had, you're explaining it is the same thing that's taking place here in terms of making an effort to explain what you experienced. You experienced that you were not alone. You experienced that Vermeil was there. You experienced that you are never alone. You experience a sense of lightness, meaning that all heaviness and all burdens had left you, and now you are at a place of peace. All that came from the vibration of the word Elohim or Avum, whichever word you were using during the state of meditation. You understand what I'm trying to say, dear?
Yes, I understand. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Pastor Richard, should we go on to Hallowed Be Thy Name?
I was about to ask the same thing to see if we are at a place of solemnity where we can pause and pick up, or should we continue? What say you?
I think we can pause. I think as we said last week, the most important part is the very beginning, because it sets the foundation. And depending on the foundation is set, and when I say foundation, the only thing I mean for everyone else listening is the understanding of what was taking place, what Jesus was actually saying, because it's totally different from just saying some words. And not just, when I say understand and knowing it, I don't mean saying, oh, this is what I was told this said, but actually feeling it, embracing it within ourselves. And then everything else immediately follows and takes on a totally different light. But this is the key part to grasp this understanding, or to embrace this this first part first. Well, definitely with that, are there any thoughts or questions or comments? Any thoughts, questions, or comments about what we've discussed thus far this evening?
I have a comment. Just Mary again. I am so thankful that I'm in on the call tonight. Just very encouraging, and I've been trying to meditate, just like the sister was saying, but all kind of things go through my head, so I couldn't do it. So now I've been given the information on how to do it, and I'm looking forward to it, and not try to struggle with saying words, but just let the wound come in and just meditate on that, so that I can get within myself, so that I can commune with the Spirit and be one with the Creator. So I'm excited about this, and I really, really am very appreciative for this time today to hear and to learn from all of you. So thank you so much.
You're more than welcome. And just in case, and this has been said before, and I added, just this is a part of who and what we are. This is a part of all of our heritage. And we've given this example before, but I want to give it just in case there anyone who's new on the line in terms of the ab womb. And when I mentioned that cultures from all around the world do this, and that they're doing this in their spiritual practices, sometimes may not even being viewed or seen as a spiritual practice. But the Native Americans have their powwows where they do the same thing, and that's a meditative state when they're going, oh, it's that vibration deep down with them, in them, excuse me, and they are experiencing a oneness and open themselves up. The Tibetan monks, they have these chants where they just like roll these little scrolls things, and they're just like Om. And then another one that most of us are most familiar with, and I always have this picture or experience in my head, is if you just think of an old elder matriarch grandmother somewhere in the country in the South, on a porch in the evening, just rocking back and forth in her rocking chair, just as calm, as peaceful as can be, no matter the circumstances or what others might view as being, hell around her, hellacious things, but just sitting there humming. Just rocking in the rocking chair. And all of this is the same exact thing that we're talking about. And what that matriarch is actually doing, that grandmother, she is abiding in that place that we just talked about in terms of the peace and the presence and all of those things that we talked about tonight of the Creator. And she may not understand or know that part of the Lord's Prayer, but this is something that, to Charles's question earlier, everyone immediately has access to. This is a part of who and what we are. It's not even something that is a birthright, because a birthright is just something that you have the right to. So therefore, it's presumed that somebody else or someone, it could be maybe taken away, or you can be cheated out of it. No, this is who and what we are. And when we go into that, that is us connecting into a part of ourselves that is always there, it's always been there, will always be there, and it's always existed.
Thank you.
Any other thoughts or comments? Well,
Great job. Great job, Shelton. And everybody else, too.
That was you. But there's nothing else. Thank you all for coming. Everyone on the line, I'm speaking for everyone. Glad you all came as well, because this is just been just as beneficial and great for all of us as well. So we appreciate you, your presence, and taking the time to be here this evening. And
Reverend Richards, are we gonna meet next Monday? Since Mother's Day is Sunday, or do we take off?
No, we don't take off on Mother's Day.
Oh, okay.
You don't take off on Father's Day. What make you think you're going to do it on Mother's Day?
Look, you said when the holidays come up, look, we had met in a year, so I have to bring it back to your remembrance.
You're right. But no, we'll be here next Monday.
Oh, okay.
All right. Thank you, dear.
You're welcome.
everyone,
Okay.
have a great week.
Have a good evening, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Take care.
Bye, everybody.
Talk to you on Saturday.
Bye. Thank you.